Hello, everyone, and welcome to another live stream here on the channel for the Black Hood Crew. I am your host slash chauffeur, BHCxDark. I am as always there in the corner. And as always, you can follow along on YouTube and Facebook at the Black Hood Crew, and follow along at my name directly on Twitch, Twitter, Steam, Trovo, TikTok, Instagram. So I am on my way to work today. It is Monday, December 19th. 2022. It is a very nice day outside. Not too hot, not fresh. Fresh is what I would call it, yeah. Nice day. Plan on going out. I would say maybe bring like a sweater. Or if you're already wearing one, just pull the sleeves up. And as the temperature dips at night, pull your sleeves down, good to go. Yesterday, what was told to me early in the day, it was busy. I got there, it started to slow down, picked up a little around 7-ish. And then basically stayed pretty steady for the rest of the night that I was there. And today is Monday, so Monday is going to be, or usually is, a very busy day. I'm hoping not, since it's literally less than 7 days till Christmas. But you never know. People don't grasp the whole concept. Let's not go to the hospital. But we shall see. We shall see. In the meantime, I got other stuff that I'm working on. I just saw Sonic Frontiers. Frontiers is on sale on Steam till the 22nd. I'll be picking that up this weekend. Because, like I said, I want to get my hands on Sonic Frontiers, play it, enjoy it, so I will be picking it up on the PC, on Steam, as it is on sale. So I'll be picking that up. I've been playing through Tunic, which is so far absolutely amazing. Amazing visuals, great combat mechanics, very, very Zelda-like in a lot of its mechanics and gameplay, but from a fixed or mostly fixed camera angle. Not like the top-down Zeldas like A Link to the Past, Link's Awakening, Oracle Seasons, Oracle Ages, Finish Cap, like those types of games where you have the top-down perspective. All right, Ring King comes in, stating down below, do I believe Henry Cavill got screwed over? I think that it's oversimplistic to say he got screwed over. I would put it more as the studios don't really know what to do with him. He is a talented actor. He can play both the hero and the villain. But ultimately, I think it comes down to he gets the right role, and because of his background as basically a nerd, he understands the character better than even the studios do. And unfortunately, because he understands the character so well, he plays every part he's given, at least when it comes to the supernatural or superhero type roles like Superman, like Geralt of Rivia on The Witcher. He understands the character so well, and because he does, he plays them so well that he now becomes synonymous with the role. And because he's become synonymous with the role, they become one with him. And the studios are trying to do their best at trying to get as much talent as they can while spending as little as they can. Ultimately, I think Henry Cavill got too famous too quickly and was able to basically, I wouldn't say demand, but command an A-list paycheck from studios like Warner Brothers and Netflix. And they don't want to pay. So they did everything they could in their power from a legal standpoint to get him out. The only reason he gave up or basically turned down coming back for the season 3 of The Witcher, or season 4 of The Witcher, is that he was going to get Superman back. And that cameo in Black Adam was basically his gateway back into the role of Superman, which would have paid big bucks, as well as put him at the forefront of DC and Warner Brothers. Personally, I think he did a fantastic job as Superman. However, in order, he would not have been able to do both. Hence, he's like, okay, which one is more akin for him? And I believe he felt Superman was going to be the way to go. And that's why he declined to come back for The Witcher. But now that Warner Brothers is not going to move forward with him as Superman, and he's already out as The Witcher, what does that leave him with? Well, if you heard any recent news about another project that he's going to be attached to, is the Warhammer 40,000 project with, I believe, Amazon. Now, I personally have played Warhammer 40,000 in a digital sense, not the tabletop version, as well as I am not entirely or even somewhat familiar with the mythos, the story behind Warhammer 40K. Yeah, and I think that the new leadership at DC, for those of you that don't know, you can read below. Ring King says fans went nuts when they saw him at the end of the movie. This is Black Adam. People want him. I want him. In fact, they have petitions to bring him back. This is a disservice to the whole fan base. I agree. That's why, although I agree that DC needed a new leadership, this decision by the new leadership has already put them in a bad light with the DC fan base. Now, James Gunn has already said that he has a Superman project in the works. Obviously not with Henry Cavill leading as the Man of Steel. However, there is another Superman project, and hopefully they'll be able to come together and form a more cohesive unit when it comes to producing these films and creating which is essentially trying to be the DC extended universe, similar to what Marvel has already established. Now, I've said this before, and I'll say it again. DC tried to create an extended universe in a handful of films, 5 or 6 films, in what Marvel created in twice as many. It worked for Marvel because they allowed certain characters to get their build-up while also peppering in ideas for the next film or the next chain of events to occur. Perfect example, when it started with Iron Man back in 2008, the end credit scene had Nick Fury introducing the Avengers Initiative. And then each subsequent film had a bonus scene that either A, touched on the Avengers as a future project, or B, the Infinity War, which was also being built up at the same time. DC tried to do what Marvel did in, 7, 8, 9 films, and again over a period of 10, 11 years, and condense it into 5 or 6 films. Personally, I think they jumped the gun when it came to the Justice. I think they jumped the gun when it came to having Superman fight Batman. And then just for the hell of it, have Wonder Woman be there. Flash coming out of complete nowhere and Cyborg getting his entire origin story forced on us in the same film that he's introduced. They try to do too quickly, too soon. Personally, I would have enjoyed at least another Superman movie before Justice League, a Batman solo film, Flash solo film, maybe give Cyborg an HBO Max limited series, 5 episodes, to introduce the character, build up as what he eventually becomes in Justice League. And we're still missing Green Lantern, Martian Manhunter. Aquaman had his movie. So they could have easily, with the right leadership, done this with the first time. But instead, they tried to do too much, too quickly, too soon. And ended up biting them in the ass because they ultimately did not have any real direction. And we're starting to see the fallout of that in the fact that we got a random Black Adam film. Dude, are you serious right now? What an idiot. Okay, so Ring King says, yeah, that Batman vs. Superman movie was average. I didn't think it was needed, but their own. If you're going to have two of the most iconic characters fight each other, it better be an S-tier movie. You're right. And it wasn't, because they tried to essentially create the beginning of the Justice League while also having their top 2 characters fighting each other. Again, too much, too soon, too quickly. Again, I would have preferred another Superman movie before even attempting Justice League. A Batman solo film. Flash, maybe not a film, but maybe, say, again, a short series on HBO. Green Lantern film would have been fine. John Stewart, Green Lantern, not Kyle Rayner. A short-lived 6-episode short series for Cyborg, Something like that. Build up these characters before creating that culmination. That is the Justice League. Martian Manhunter we never got, unless you take the Snyder cut, but technically that doesn't exist. And even less now with the new leadership. We never got Green Lantern. So this is basically a clusterfuck of their own doing. And now, because of how poorly this was executed initially, now they're trying to basically play catch up. And a catch up of their own fuck up. And it's already, if this is the first decision, cutting out Henry Cavill as Superman, they're already starting way behind the eight ball. And this is not a good start. It is not. In fact, at this point, it might even be hopeless for DC and Warner Brothers to actually make something functional from what it exists. Because keep in mind, the Flash project is still moving forward. The Aquaman sequel still moving forward. But we're not getting anything new with Batman. A completely different Superman. And Wonder Woman is basically left up in the air. Martian Manhunter, nowhere to be found. Green Lantern, nowhere to be found. Cyborg, all but deleted because of some personal issues behind the camera. This is ridiculous. Marvel had the right idea, and they executed it, and it came out much better than anything DC has. At least right now when it comes to live action film. Now, when it comes to other media, animated projects, actually DC is still the number one leader when it comes to animated superhero projects. Their animated films and animated shows are still S tier. Marvel, hit or miss when it comes to the shows, but they're doing a little. They did better before. She-Hulk was. It started out as a mess, ended a little bit lighter, a little bit better. Ranking stays correct. They still keep in the Flash. If you want to try a new direction, then you cut ties with everyone, not keep some. It will cause more confusion. Yes, agree. 100% agree. If you're going to cut out some actors playing iconic roles, but keeping others and still moving forward with those projects, you're only going to create situations where people are not going to be able to understand. Especially for people who don't read comic books, don't stay up to date with, superheroes and their stories outside of what comes out in movie theaters. But you and I know these characters outside of the movie theater environment. We know them from a comic book standpoint, animated shows. We know them on an almost more personal level than the average person does. So it is sad. And that idiot. If anything, us real fans, the ones who know these characters inside and out and have known them for many years before anything touched a silver screen, we are actually the most angry, the most let down, the most jaded when it comes to these decisions because of how much we know, the stories we know, the backgrounds of all of these characters. We know them. And we were happy to see them portrayed on screen. To see a Superman the like we haven't seen since Christopher Reeve. To see a really good depiction of Wonder Woman. And a very passable depiction of Aquaman. And dare I say it, a passable version of the Flash. I will not touch on Green Lantern movie because, as far as I am concerned, it doesn't exist. So there was great potential to build an extended universe with these great iconic characters, these iconic storylines, and yet they tried to stuff 10 pounds of greatness into a 5-pound bag. And the leftovers were allowed to hit the floor. You can't do that. You cannot do that. Because ultimately what ends up being salvaged is not enough. It is not enough to hold together a cohesive story, to hold together an entire franchise. It can't be done. Sorry for changing the subject, but real quick, do you think they should try making a Superman video game, or you think it's just too powerful to have a video game? A good game. Yes, I think Superman does not translate well into a video game. Reason being, Superman is, for all intents and purposes, OP, that's overpowered, beyond all. So you cannot effectively give him a good video game without finding some way to depower him. Essentially, remove Superman. Remove the super from the man. We'll basically put it as that. You can't have a good game, a good Superman game, without removing the super first. And then what are you left with? You're left with just some guy. And at that point, how effective is he going to be as a superhero if he literally is no longer Superman? Some games do a good job of taking a character who is at first OP and then reducing them down. But ultimately, it's not some sort of inherent superpower that this character has. I'll give you 2 examples of video game characters that start out incredibly powered up, almost OP, and then through some twist of fate, get depowered or brought down to a level where they now have to pick themselves back up. First example is Metroid. Samus Aran, in every instance, almost every game that she's appeared in, she starts out the game powered up to a degree. She starts out with maybe a more advanced armor, advanced weapon systems, maybe some secondary, tertiary weapon systems that through some twist of fate, she loses. And then you play through the game regaining not only all of those abilities, but also and better ones. The other example is the first Assassin's Creed. Altair starts the game with a host of tools at his disposal. And due to a storyline confusion or twist of fate, those abilities or those tools are taken from him, and he's left with just his skill set, and then has to build up from there, build up his respect and his tool set from there. So not like it cannot be done, but even before these characters losing these tools, abilities, or whatnot, they weren't all that OP to begin with. So to create a Superman game would mean having to completely remove the super from the man, and then somehow find a way for him to regain his ability. That's not how Superman's powers work, though. And you and I both know this. Superman is an alien. And for anybody else that doesn't understand, Superman being an alien ultimately puts him in a position where his abilities don't come from a human standpoint, because ultimately he's not human. As a Kryptonian, his powers manifested through extended and prolonged exposure to the radiation from a yellow sun. But the thing is, if King stays below, how about just put him on another planet where he's fighting really strong opponents? Okay, but ultimately then you become a Dragon Ball Z clone at that point. You see where the issue is? Like, you can't effectively give Superman his own game, because then you ultimately come up with something like the One Punch Man game. For anybody that's ever seen One Punch Man, which is great, by the way, it's a Japanese anime where the whole premise is the main character, Saitama, is so overpowered that he can hit all of his opponents with a single punch. They created a One Punch Man game. In that game, Saitama is not a playable character from the start. Instead, you can play as a host of other heroes fighting against other villains. And if you playing as a hero ultimately lose your battle, as a way to save you, Saitama comes in and you get temporary control. And ultimately, of course, one punch is all it takes for him to beat the opponent, regardless of how powerful they are, regardless of how much health they have left in the battle. To have the same effect happen with Superman. Pit him against a bunch of other superpowered creatures from all corners of the universe. As long as he has, basically, as long as he's still under a yellow sun and nobody's using kryptonite, Superman is nearly unbeatable. And the only people that were able to beat him, the only characters able to beat Superman, had in some way, shape, or form his same power. So what do? Well, truth be told, he should not be in a video game standpoint at all. Superman does not need a game. Keep him where he belongs. Movies, cartoons, comic books. Video game would just not be decent for this type of character, for the type of power that he has. So, on that note, we're going to go ahead and cut out here. I've arrived at work. Just got to get a couple quick things to be on my way in. I have been BHCxDark. This has been an episode of me driving to work. You can catch me again tomorrow, around the same time, 3:30ish, for another episode of me driving to work. So again, YouTube and Facebook at The Black Hood Crew. My name directly on Twitch, Twitter, Steam Trouble, TikTok,